Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Welcome to the Lives podcast. This is Mary Scott. It's a gorgeous day here in Queensland today, wherever you are living. I hope you're having a beautiful day, because that's important to have the sunshine in your heart and out there as well. Now, my guest today resides in Adelaide in South Australia, That's a bit of a mouthful. Originally from Ireland, which you will know very soon when we start to speak to her. Her name is Donovan, and my goodness, has she got a story to tell. After recovering or overcoming stage 4 heart failure, she is now very dedicated to assisting women who have really been in great despair and in quite a lot of hardship. What should I say? Some challenging times, and she's dedicating her life. I think that's probably a bit extreme, but look, there's way, way much more to this woman's repertoire than you can imagine. Claire, big welcome to you. It's lovely to have you here. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me. I am doing very well, thank you. The sun is shining here in Adelaide as well, which is very nice, finally.
That's right. Yes, we're both in spring, and if you're joining us from other hemispheres, you'll appreciate that we're in spring, and it's not always same for everyone else. So let's kick it off. My goodness, stage 4 heart failure. What on earth is that for our listeners who don't know what that is?
Oh my goodness. Well, I had been very sick, and what I thought was just a series of infections that were just getting worse and worse and worse, and I was getting more and more breathless. It was getting to the point where I was needing to take a big gasp in between every word, and I was really like a fish out of water at the time. And it was whenever I woke up one morning really in so much pain, feeling like I'd been hit by a car. And I thought, you know what, I think I need help. And so I went to the hospital, and they were initially going to drain my lungs as there was a lot of fluid on my lungs. And some bright spark in the pulmonary ward thought that a cardiologist should get involved. And it was one quick ultrasound, and they could tell immediately that I had heart failure, that my ejection output, which is how efficiently blood is being pumped around your body, was at 15%. And the standard for a woman is between 50 and 75. So I was in a lot of trouble, and it was just so surreal to have that being said at age 36. Just what is happening right now? And I had never had any heart issues before. I don't have blocked arteries or heart disease or anything like that. Mine was post-viral. So it was because I had a cold and an infection on repeat for about 8 weeks. And wow. Yeah, my immune system just took an absolute pummeling, and then I had no idea what was going on. I was just incredibly fatigued for about 8 months. And it was whenever I had the next infection that, yeah, things really got me in trouble.
Wow. And I know, forgive me, you've told that story a lot of times, but I think it's great to start there, because today you're a transformational coach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from that and some other experiences along the way that's led you to that. Is that true?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I actually started coaching back in 2016, so about 8 years ago, whenever I was an art therapist back in the UK. And I have always been dedicated to helping others, because I have had mental health struggles in my past, especially around intense anxiety. And I actually realized that my community, which would have been considered the chronically ill, the disabled community, were not being served. They weren't getting the resources that they needed in order to heal or even begin healing. So that was really the start of my journey in helping others.
That's very cool. Sorry,
yeah,
did I interrupt you?
No, you're okay. It was just another thought. I came to Australia thinking that I would just be an artist for the rest of my days, but after the heart failure and the massive spiritual expansion that happened after that, whenever you're told that people with your new heart condition that you have for life now, 50% of people who have that and contract that die within the first 5 years. And that really knocked me for six for a couple of weeks. And I realized, well, if I've only got 5 years, I know what I have to do. I have to help people. I have to share my knowledge. All of my experiences can't just be for this. It has to be worth something. So really plugged it
I
back in.
I'm interested to hear this line that you just said. I'm going to repeat it.
Mm.
It knocked me around for a couple of weeks,
Mhm.
It's pretty devastating news. 50% of these people pass over within 5 years, and it
Yeah,
knocked you around for a couple of weeks, and then you got back to it. That's
yeah.
phenomenal. That says something about your mindset. I mean, this is of great interest to you, your personal growth, your personal development.
Mhm.
So tell me when that all started, because to say that that took a couple of weeks, you must have already done quite a lot of work on yourself and where you were heading.
Yes, definitely. It started when I was about 18, so around 20 years ago. Um, I had initially gone to university in Belfast in Northern Ireland to study computer science. And that was after a year I had done something creative and uplifting and beautiful during my A levels that I didn't want to stop doing. But my family was like, get your science degree behind you, and then you can follow your artistic pursuits. I was miserable. I was so miserable, and depression really took over. Thankfully, my parents were incredibly supportive, but it really felt as if my extended family at the time had abandoned me because they're a family of engineers. They're a family of big nerdy boys. And I, as I've grown, I have realized a couple of things. Like number one, they probably had zero clue how to support me at that time. And the second was that they also probably wanted to give me the space that I needed to process whatever it was that I was processing. But at that time, and still, in my kid brain, because our brains don't fully develop until we're 25, that really translated as if I wasn't good enough for attention. And that really hurt, especially from my grandmother. But she was born in 1927. She was not equipped with the
Correct.
kind of emotional tools that was required at the time. But thankfully, my mum was. And but the feeling of not being worthy of attention was really an extension of some childhood trauma because I was bullied at school. I was an only child. I was a bit of a weirdo, highly sensitive, and I can own it now, but at the time I was just so awkward. And while I understand why I was bullied, that wasn't fun. And I remember the first book my mum gave me was Richard Carlson's Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And that
Yes.
just absolutely changed everything.
Thank you, Mum.
Yeah.
What gratitude you must have for that
Yeah.
stepping stone or even launch into that.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, some of your artwork, I believe, is behind you there. So if
Hmm.
you're watching this, look at that. How gorgeous that is. And
Thank
then
you.
you find yourself, because that's so right brain, and you find yourself in a left brain situation. Oh my gosh, they're kind of poles apart. And I hear
Definitely.
this story quite often. I'm sure you do too, in your coaching position, where the family think it's best that you do this, and then the family channels you this way, and it's so against your flow. It shuts all of that other part off sometimes. And you look to me like you regained yourself quite nicely. You got back on track to what makes your heart sing, as I say it. How did that happen? How did you get back to doing what makes your heart sing?
I actually ended up doing a creative degree after that, which thankfully managed to lead quite nicely, excuse me, down in the art therapy path. So it was being able to spend those 4 years of doing creative work and also continuing the personal development. And my mum, by that stage, had her own little personal development library and a degree in psychology. So I was very much deep into it. But it wasn't until maybe I was 23 or 24 that I discovered meditation, and I actually gave it a try, because Northern Ireland's a little bit behind the times. So my mum and I went to a meditation class, and it just changed everything. And I kept up, I developed the discipline, and that was what, maybe 14 years ago now. So it really works. The meditation really works. And that's not to say that it will take 14 years for you to develop this kind of mindset at all.
No,
It can
no.
happen within 30 days. But yeah, I'm so grateful, because if you had asked me right before I was told that I had heart failure, if you'd asked, would you have a bit of a breakdown if you were told? I would absolutely, but I didn't. And I'm very proud of the way I handled it and continue to handle it. And part of me at one point was like, am I just in shock? Is this not me processing it? But it was because I had already established the discipline of the mental health habits and the journaling and the meditation. And I continued doing those. And I continued to put myself first and look after myself, because that was the priority.
Wow. 23 years of age and being enlightened and on a path, a very special path. Tell me about the strong, I'm assuming, I shouldn't assume, the strong influence or role modeling that your mother had on you as you've gone through life.
Well, my mum also would be considered a highly sensitive person. So that comes with intense anxiety as well. So her journey was also her trying to kind of discover emotional regulation for herself, and how she can then translate that into being a good mum, which she ended up doing fantastically well. So having her as a guidepost and also an incredible influence to watch, like she's not just talking the talk, she's walking the walk. And I had an immense respect for that. And I still am very much a person that if I say I'm going to do something, I will do it. And I will walk the walk for as long as I can. Unless my health is in the way, then I will have to gracefully pull back. But definitely doing what you say you're going to do and doing it with love and openness is so important.
Beautiful. Doing what you say you'll do with love and openness. Wow, that's beautiful. Well said. That is so true. Well, I think that there's so much around at the moment that people have learned out of books. It's very much, this is my observation, not necessarily a truth. My observation is a lot of academic things happening, and people are wanting to get more and more of that course, this course, that course. Whereas what you're talking about is a connectedness, a consciousness that you have developed and developed and developed to this point in your life. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I don't believe that you can teach someone that. You had a guiding, like you said, was it signposts? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
That
guideposts.
I love that. That just, I suddenly saw this path and you were walking along following these posts. And I think that's so necessary in today's world, isn't it? The challenge, I believe, is that sometimes we see posts that are taking us away from what makes our heart sing. What kept you to staying the course, do you think, Claire?
Consciously checking in with how I'm feeling, because it's very obvious to me when I haven't painted for a while or done anything creative, because my spirit is just a little bit lower than it usually is. It is whenever I am in that flow state for an extended period of time. It is a form of meditation. And if you can get into that for hours on end and just have fun, and sometimes I'd have comedy on in the background and I'd be laughing, and that just elevates the experience entirely. So it is really monitoring how you feel, because there's too much emphasis these days, I believe, again, my observation, that hustle is what is going to get you where you want to be in life. And it's like, no, where you want to be is at peace. And maybe you want to have the financial rewards as well, so you can support your family or whatever reason you have. But ideally, it will all come at peace. Because if you hustle and you are constantly giving and giving and giving and not refilling that cup, then you're not going to be useful to anybody. And that includes parents as well. There's so many parents that I meet that are just like, I have to put my child first. I have to do this. I have to do that. Now you are running yourself into the ground. And once you get to that stage, you're going to be absolutely no use to your child. So you really do, even though it seems counterintuitive, put yourself first. Even if it's 5 minutes for a quick meditation, just do it. It doesn't have to be detrimental to your child in any way. You can hide in the bathroom for 5 minutes and just sit and ground yourself, whatever you need to do. It's so necessary to care for yourself and put yourself first.
That's absolutely right. I talk a lot about the pecking order, which is what you're saying. And it is a challenge, that demographic of mums. They're the ones that I've noticed have the biggest trouble. Firstly, I shouldn't be doing this because they're my children. And I get that on one level, but it's a bit like the aeroplane. This is a bit corny, but, put your oxygen mask on first and you can certainly help others. And, mums constantly attempt to start the day with an empty cup and start pouring when they haven't, they've already got no fuel.
Yeah.
And I think if you can just take little snippets of time out during the day, which is what you're saying, and just keep your fuel tank up, my goodness, what a difference it makes. I've seen people change the course of their life by just changing that one thing. That's lovely, isn't it? And
yeah,
it's so rewarding when you see people do that flip. Because suddenly, you're helping and supporting them to tap into, who I am and what I've got to give. That's really cool. That's the juicy part, isn't it, about our business in terms of that. It's a beautiful thing. So what's your most favorite? You talked about laughing before, and I was thinking, elevating your spirit, and I laugh every day. What do you think laughter, you've already said it elevates you, but what do you think about just encouraging people to laugh every day? What do you think it'd make much of a difference?
Yes, definitely. I did have my own experience of a bit of an anxious breakdown. It was like an experience of 8 weeks where I was totally flat. And that was whenever I discovered the meditation. And my mum actually came up to the city to take care of me at that time. And I was splitting my day up. So I would say, if you get to 3 o'clock and you can meditate, then you can get to the evening time and that's your day done. But in that, after the meditation time, my mum and I would watch comedians and funny movies and we would just laugh. And that slowly built up over a few weeks. And I got over that so much faster than I anticipated because we were cultivating laughter and we continued to do that. So my mum and I still, if I'm back home in Ireland, the last time I was there, we were binging Kath and Kim, and the pair of us were honking like geese in the living room. So it is, my dad would just pop his head. What's so funny?
Oh, that took me right back there when you said that, Kath and Kim. I start laughing already. Laughter therapy at its best. And how easy is that? It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't take much to get you into that laughing. I mean, one of my clients is a laughter yoga specialist, and she just opens her mouth and I just start laughing, and we giggle about that. And how powerful is that? Changes state in a heartbeat, and it's interesting. I'm busy here reminiscing now. I've gone back to Kath and Kim. Oh my goodness, I better come back to the present. There was some good episodes. No, I think it's lovely. That's yummy stuff, isn't it? That's more juice that we love. What gives you pleasure at the moment in your life, Claire?
Oh, I do love reading, not just self-help and development books. I make sure that I take time out to read fiction, novels. I do love to paint still and draw animals, and I actually take care of animals on the side because I don't have a pet here and I've had pets my entire life. So being able to look after a puppy for a weekend and just play with a puppy for a weekend like I'm a child is fantastic.
My goodness, puppies. Well, good for you because they're not easy. And a whole
No,
weekend.
yeah, I've got one coming this afternoon. I'm looking
Oh,
forward to it.
lovely. Oh, wow. Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? That those are the little things that make the difference.
Yeah.
And I think what I see is that we've got all caught up in the big things and some material things, but the techie things that we feel like we need. And it's the simple things, isn't it?
Yeah.
The silence. Like I wrote an article recently about silence, and it's just not common anymore. People don't sit or seek silence. And yet you're saying you do. What else is it that you seek to fulfill you?
Ooh, flowers. I love just walking around the neighborhood, especially at this time of year, and I can smell all the new flowers. I'm like, oh, there's a beautiful garden just up the road from me, and there's a beautiful archway, and it's like a ring. She's cultivated, I don't know how many rose plants, but
Wow.
and it's not a big house or anything, but it is a fabulous garden, and I would love to go in, but I just like sniff my way past. And my boyfriend, when I first got here, he was laughing because every time we passed a garden, I was, oh, because I wanted all these plants. So I have a list of beautiful plants that I've seen, and you will see me on stories just posting up a native Australian plant going, what is this? I need this. So I have a
Yeah.
list of beautiful flowers that I want in my garden, and we've had the lilacs out recently, and I have always wanted a lilac tree.
They're gorgeous, aren't they?
They're fabulous, fabulous. So they just bring me so much joy. And even if I'm just about to go for a walk and I get a whiff, it just, as you say, makes your heart sing, just lifts. You can feel it. It's wonderful.
That's right. I imagine where you live, something like wisteria, which is very like lilac to look at.
Love wisteria.
Would, yes, isn't it divine?
I do have a neighbor round the corner who he has managed to tree in wisteria all over his carport, but all around the side of the house as well. And he's constantly tweaking it just to get it to go round, and it looks majestic right now, just because it's all come out.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Isn't it funny how things tie together? We're talking about flowers and people's gardens, and I wonder what would happen if you went into your favorite garden, the one with the roses, those ones,
Hmm.
and just say how grateful you are. I wonder what would happen. What do you imagine would happen?
Oh, I imagine I've got goosebumps. I love to imagine sitting in the middle of it just while the sun is shining and meditating. And then for some reason I think of butterflies, just a vision of butterflies comes to me. And just peace, I imagine.
Absolutely. Wow. Yes. So would you say that your life is a values-driven life?
Yes, definitely.
And what are some of your important pivotal values that you live by, Claire?
Well, one of my values would be taking care of my health and making sure that the people I love put their health and their mental well-being first. Like, I don't need to be first on your list. I need you to be first on your list so that we can both be loving, open, and giving to one another on a level playing field. I think equality is important as well, and open communication, very, very important. Again, say what you mean and mean what you say. It's vital, vital.
Yeah, go on.
So it just builds so much trust, and yeah, being trustworthy and having the ability to trust wholeheartedly, I think is beautiful, because not a lot of people have. It's very difficult to have these days with whatever's going on in the media. If you pay attention to that, I don't, because you can't trust any of it. So I cultivate a space of trust with family, with friends, with clients. Like, I want you to be able to trust me, and I want to be able to trust you. It's very important.
Yes. And what you're actually saying, you're describing to me authenticity,
Yes.
be your authentic self. And I certainly experienced
Yes.
that with you. We've had
Mhm.
a couple of chats here. You're very authentic, very present. I really appreciate that about you.
Oh, thank you.
It's a great attribute. And how do you find your clients when they start tapping into these things, genuineness, trust? When you think about fear, for example, there's fear and there's trust.
Mhm.
And so tell me a little bit about your work with your clients. What is it that really catches you?
At the beginning of working with clients, I find that a lot of them have a fear of being judged for having desires bigger than themselves. So, say they want to manifest a certain income level so that they can support their family, all very worthy reasons behind it. But they have all of these beliefs and a real fear that they're going to be judged for being greedy or being too much, or and I really do my best to cultivate a very safe space. Like, I'm not judging you. I'm no better than you. You're no better than me. Like, I really want you to feel like if you want $1 million, you tell me you want $1 million and I will support you wholeheartedly. Like, just go get it. I will believe in you and I will do whatever I can to support you and make you feel good along the way.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. You're talking about equality, aren't you? Right there, right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
That's what you're saying. And isn't it interesting that just sitting and being yourself, so much of that, then the client takes on, oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's so much harder to be in the pretend model, isn't it? You can
Yeah.
be yourself. I remember years ago when I did my somatic, I think it was my somatic psychotherapy training, I listened to this guy and he was saying that the therapist needs to come from the very best of themselves and talk to the very best in their client. I thought that was a beautiful thing because in that, you absolutely are saying you have a very best, just like I have a very best. Let's bring it together and create something. Whoa. How do you feel about what I'm saying about that?
Oh, I totally agree. I can't remember. I was in a relationship and they felt a little bit lesser and they may have been going through their own anxiety issues at the time. And they were feeling, yeah, just less worthy, I suppose, of everything in their lives at the time. And I had said, look, I am not seeing you and viewing you as your experience. This is just an experience. I am seeing you at your full potential, at your beautiful soul level self that I know you are through the bajillions of conversations we've had. This is just a temporary experience. This does not define you. And I really feel that way about everyone I meet because, oh, fantastic. Somebody's doing roadworks right beside me now.
We can't hear it.
Oh, thank goodness, thank goodness. So yeah, I feel that about everybody because practically everything is a temporary experience, and it is the thread of who you are that runs through them all that I see and that I value, and that I want to help you cultivate and accept and grow into. Because a lot of people haven't taken the time to do that because they haven't really been given the space or the permission, whether by somebody else or themselves.
Beautiful. Well said. That's right. So what you're doing is giving space for people to step into themselves.
Yes.
Yes, lovely. That's awesome. So what's your intention? Where are you looking to take your life, your artist? Like this, I keep looking at that. There's something about the mauve. I think I've said this to you before, the mauve in that photo, but painting. Where are you going to take all this? What's your burning desires or ambitions?
Well, as I said, I want to help as many people as possible. So in my coaching, I would love to host retreats and really connect to as many women as I possibly can. I would love to see more of Australia instead of just South Australia. I think it's such a massive continent and I'm so far from home that I may as well embrace it. I spent my childhood seeing all of Ireland, so I may as well spend the rest of my life seeing Australia. I think that would be good. And I really want to do this for my family here and my family in Ireland. I want to support them like they have supported me, and I want to be able to give my best to them. And I don't want to worry them, because that was the worst feeling whenever I
Yes.
was diagnosed. My first
Yes.
question was like, how am I going to tell my parents after I've just abandoned them? What am I going to do? Because I'm an only child. So that was also, I felt very responsible, even though I fully know I'm not responsible for other people's feelings or emotions or how they react. But you still don't want to hurt people's feelings. So yes, I want to be able to be the best I can be for them and with them.
Yeah, lovely. And I like your point about that. You're not responsible, but they're family, and your head's saying you're not responsible, but your heart's saying, oh,
Yeah.
it's kind of drawing you in spite of yourself, really.
Mm-hmm.
And to what was the biggest thing about that experience? Because I don't know, but I think I'd be frightened witless, regardless of how much work I've done on myself. The fear would be enormous. What was the moment? I know you talked about when they said 50% pass and 5 years, etc. But was there another moment where you just decided that you were going to flourish and thrive? Because you look like you're thriving to me. You look very good. You look healthy, and
Thank you.
you've got a real aura around you that is lovely.
Thank
So
you.
that didn't just happen overnight, did it?
No, but it did happen, well, in stages, I would say. So it would have been a few days into my hospital stay. I realized that me being afraid of where to go next or where I am going next is a bit fruitless. It's just a waste of whatever time I may or may not have left. And I am in the specialist hospital and the specialist ward, surrounded by so much knowledge and education. And I just had to surrender. Like, there was nowhere left for me to go. I was either going down or I was going that way, and I decided to go that way. Because I've been, like I said, at 23, and I had that anxious breakdown at that time. I was like, I'm never ever going through this again, which is why I developed that discipline. And whenever the option was down or that way, I was like, I'm not indulging this. It's a waste of energy that I don't have. So I fully surrendered, and I was actually more concerned about the people around me. My partner was a fantastic support, and but you could tell by the look on his face that he was worried, and he
Yeah.
couldn't shake it. And I I was so concerned about how other people were reacting that I didn't really have time to be concerned about myself. But I trusted the doctors, and I did what they said, and I continue to do what they say. And everything that I could be doing for myself, everything I could control, I controlled, and everything that was out of my control had to be let go, because there was no real other option. And then after that couple of weeks of being knocked around with the 50% thing, I realized, you know what? I need more information, because that was just a little kind of soundbite that was scary, and I didn't take anything else in that was said after that, because your brain
Oh,
just,
no, you would have shut off.
yeah, completely. So I sought more information from my nurse practitioner, who is actually on the board of cardiology here in South Australia, so is very knowledgeable, and trust him complicitly. And he explained that, a lot of people who experience heart failure are addicted to drugs, or they've been alcoholics their entire lives, or they've smoked. I don't do any of those things. And it was because I was immunocompromised that I got it. And he said, if I can do my utmost to take care of myself and avoid things like getting the cold, which is very difficult, but I do it, you will have a longer lifespan. I can't say how long, but it's unlikely it will be 5 years. So knowing that, it just made me realize, you know what, it doesn't matter if it's 5 years or if it's 10. I have things to do. I have people to help, because I can help. I've got the knowledge, I collected all the certificates and all the certifications, and I have to help people. I can't just have gone through all that education just for it to be a certificate that sits on the mantle, you know?
That's lovely. Now I've got someone cutting their grass outside, don't you? Just
Can't hear it.
go for a studio.
Yeah.
Can you tell our audience what surrender means for you?
Oh, radical acceptance, I would say.
Oh, beautiful. Radical acceptance. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Acceptance of the situation, acceptance that you can't control it, acceptance that every situation isn't meant to be controlled by you. Some things are out of your hand and things are happening for you, not to you. So there's always going to be a lesson in there, and it's seeking the lesson and the learnings that I find the fascinating and the fun part, which sounds a bit strange, but it's
yes, love it.
It's a deep dive into understanding and then accepting what you've learned.
Lovely. You're a very wise soul. Well, that's how I experience you, Claire. You've brought a lot of knowledge and so many good, I don't even want to say tips, some really good things to live our lives by. And I hope that our audience have picked all those up. If you haven't, play it again, because there's just so much richness, the richness of our lives. My goodness, you've certainly demonstrated that today. Let's end with one thing, if you would.
Sure.
What's one thing you would say to people about how to live their life?
Intentionally. Do it with intention and do it on purpose. People tend to just go with the flow, but not realizing that the flow is a brainwave state that you can cultivate to get you in the direction of your dreams, you know? And if you're just at the beginning of healing, start slow, but keep consistency, like develop the discipline, because it is your greatest ally.
It's lovely. It's beautiful. That's a lovely way to end. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
It's a real pleasure to spend time with you.
Yeah,
I have
likewise.
a feeling we'll talk again, and you have a gorgeous rest of your day. And
You too.
thanks from all of us for being here today.
Thank you very much.
This week's episode has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.